Welcome to the Cold Feet Podcast. Today I'm joined by someone who is my mother's age, grandma's age.
Mother's age.
But also one of my best friends. Surprisingly,
Yes.
we hike a lot together, we speak a lot, and we go on many barefoot adventures. And I wanted to introduce the one and only
Dara Saker.
So Dara, can you tell us what you do and what brings you to the Cold Feet Podcast today?
Sure. So I am a physical therapist. I've got a master's in physical therapy from Hunter College in New York. I've taken, I'm a physical therapist and that is what my title is, but I've taken a multitude of courses all over the world. I've traveled to a whole bunch of different places, and I've sort of, I'm not going to say made my own method of treatment, but I've been able to integrate all of these different things that I've learned in a way that seems to work for most of my patients. And I'm here on the Cold Feet Podcast because I think for over a year, Sean's been trying to get me in the cold tub. So we did go into a Mayan together once. But yeah, we did do that. Yeah. But so that's why I'm here today. I'm looking forward to it.
It's pretty funny because the original excuse was that it's winter.
Right.
Then we waited for the spring, and then the summer came, and then winter came again.
Right.
So I said to Dara, if you want to make the Cold Feet Podcast happen without chickening out, it better happen soon.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's going to be too cold.
It's
Just already, your introduction, you spoke about how you kind of, even though you're a physical therapist by trade and title, you kind of created your own thing.
Right.
I think every coach should be doing that.
100%.
Every physio, every trainer, every coach. They can't just go by the books, because if they
100%.
go by the books, two things are going to happen. First of all, in an oversaturated world of training, they're just going to be lost in the curriculum of trainers. Oh, whatever, another physio, yay, maybe I'll go to them, maybe I won't.
Right.
And they're going to stop growing. And if they did their course in 2005, it's now 2021, almost 2022, they're starting to discover that, whoa, what I'm learning is outdated or not applicable or not working.
Exactly.
So when you create your own thing, at least the way I define it is, it usually means you're kind of reading and watching and learning and growing along like-minded people to be the best version of yourself.
Absolutely.
So I really wanted to dive into today because I work with athletes and tactical, and you work with athletes and tactical as well. An athlete gets hurt. He gets injured, minor, major. He assumedly goes to the doctor.
Right.
The doctor does whatever the doctor does.
Right.
Stop working out for 6 months. Take painkillers, surgery, okay, whatever. Moving on. Now he's going to a person who can probably help them in a higher quality manner. Does he go to a high quality trainer? Does he go to a physical therapist? Does he go to a physio, massage therapist, chiropractor? Let's just answer this once and for all.
Okay, so first off, I have to say there are a number of trainers, massage therapists, chiros who are really, really good and are using similar techniques, similar things maybe to what I do, and some of them are better than physios. As we know, it doesn't matter what the field is, you're going to have people
or the
that
title.
Exactly. You can have people that are really good and people that aren't really good. So I think a lot really depends on what kind of an injury it is, how severe it is. But I do think that going to either a rehab chiro or a physical therapist, depending on the severity of the injury, for a temporary period is probably better, because we're going to get down to maybe these small little nitty-gritty things, and your job as the coach, often you may be working with people one-on-one, but often you may have this athlete in a group of 4 or 5 other people. It's very, very hard to stop what you're doing to focus on this person, and it just disrupts the whole the whole flow of the class. So if you can send them to someone like me, then within a few sessions, especially if they're trained by someone like you, they really don't need very much rehab. And that goes also with anybody who's gone through rehab. For example, with me, if they come back later, my friend's son actually just dislocated his shoulder in the summer, and we had 5 sessions over a 10 or 11 week period, and he's 100%. Now why? Because he came to me as a 14-year-old when he had scoliosis, so he understands how to breathe, how to stabilize, he understands how to move around his joints. So getting him to rehab, as long as he was going to do the homework, it was going to be okay. So I think really depending on the severity of the issue, if it's more like they've got some knee pain as opposed to I blew out my ACL or I blew out my meniscus, I think it could be that the coach will be enough. But if it's something more severe than that, especially if it's someone who's being trained in a group, it's probably better just to temporarily give them to someone else, and then we're going to give them right back to you. The goal isn't to keep them, the goal is to get them right back to you.
I absolutely agree with that. 2 things I wanted to address there. Number one, I totally agree with the individual versus group assessment. I work with individuals a lot one-on-one, and many times if I feel that the individual is lacking, I will work with them one-on-one, or they'll reach out to me and say, hey, I realize I'm falling behind. Can I get the special attention? And I think that one of the biggest struggles of being a strength and conditioning coach or athletic performance coach is that even if your workouts are not cookie cutter workouts and they're built for the team, there's always going to be people that are a little bit more advanced, people that are a little bit falling behind, some people whose knee tweaks them a bit, some people's hamstring tore a few months ago and they're still not fully recovered yet.
Right.
And those kind of people, the strength coach has to juggle with, hand in hand with the team's physical therapist or physio or massage therapist or even head coach.
Right.
All the factors or people that are the deciders regarding this athlete's career. So what my method is that on the field we'll do the workout that's planned or the program that's planned with regressions and progressions built in. So if like a girl can't jump yet, so we do a lower jump or she doesn't jump. If a girl's stronger, she'll do a little bit of a heavier weight. And at the homework that they're doing on their own 3 to 6 times a week, there it gets specific. So there they really have, hey Sean, I've been having trouble with like my knee. All right, so let's give you some extra stuff for that. If it still persists, then I'll send them to the team physio. So whatever pain they have, they can kind of catch up so they can be on the curriculum. But the way a well-designed strength program is, at least the way I do it, is from day one, basics. I don't care if you just finished you're in your peak shape and peak conditioning, you're going to be on the level of the rest of the girls. So by month 3, by month 4, you've all progressed equally. And if you want to do extra work on your own, you're welcome to, and obviously I speak to them about that as well. But the goal is that if all the girls are following the 6 to 12 month curriculum, or guys, until their tournament or until their championship, none of them are getting injured. Like, injury is not something that should be happening unless there's missing components. One more thing I want to address is what you said about slipping my mind for a second. It will come back to me.
You got it.
Okay. Meanwhile, I want to jump into, so this person recovered from the injury. Okay. Now they go start playing again, and then they get injured again. Should they be reaching out to physio? Should they be reaching out to the strength and conditioning coach, assuming that both are equally knowledgeable and have the ability to deal with this injury?
Again, I think it could be either. It just depends on how each person evaluates the injury. In other words, I may look at different things than you. If someone's got a knee problem, I may be evaluating different things than you. I may be evaluating the same things. Again, it definitely could be the strength and conditioning coach, unless that, I think that we all have to realize that, none of us work in a vacuum, and, at a certain point, jack of all trades, master of none, right? So it was something I decided years ago when I started taking a lot of courses that used a lot of muscle testing, and I do use muscle testing and things like that, but that got into some really funky, sort of like, I guess you could call it like witchcrafty type things. Now, I had to make a decision at that point.
Like voodoo flossing and rock taping? Or
not that. No, not like
like
that.
voodoo
More like just different types of muscle testing.
Great Cook stuff?
Where they're pairing, no, not
What
Great
kind
Cook
of-
stuff.
what kind of
So
muscle
I've taken I've taken 3 levels of neurokinetic therapy.
Yeah.
When you get into level 3 of neurokinetic therapy, you're pairing eye movements, you're pairing, hyoid movements, you're pairing a lot of funky things. And the bottom line is, and then there's other, I'm trying to remember what the other thing was that a lot of people from NKT got into. I can't remember what it's called, but it was another higher level form of muscle testing where they would do really weird things. They were pairing whether it was, the compensation pattern at a certain area was like a vibration, or whether it was like, deep pain, soft pain, like because there are a variety of different types of nerve fibers in the body. And it was like really witchcraft things. Now, do I think that 100% of the people in the world need this? Absolutely not. I think that 95% of the people in the world are going to get better when you address their mobility restrictions, when you address their stability, their lack of stability, and when you increase their strength. I think that most people are going to get better. And I decided at that time that, I could either go to the weird stuff, and I could be like, the genius who fixed everyone,
Right.
or I could be the person who helped people fix themselves. And that's what my goal is. I'm not fixing anyone. I'm giving you the tools to fix yourself. And I decided that was what I wanted to do. So, again, a lot of the people who have a lot of the things that just don't get better, a lot of times there's a very strong emotional component. And a lot of times some of them might benefit from some of this weird witchcrafty stuff. So the 1 or 2 people, if that happens, like, I'll try to find them someone else or refer them to someone else. Because we all have to realize the goal is, it's not about us being number one. It's about us giving people what they need and helping, and really the best
And
is
helping
helping
human
them.
beings.
Yeah, helping people and giving them the tools to fix themselves. So whenever somebody says to me, like, oh my God, you're a miracle worker, you fixed me, I was like, no, you fixed yourself. Like, I gave you the tools, I gave you what you needed to be able to fix yourself. And that's what the goal is.
I think that the trainers and physical therapists and massage therapists and anyone in our area, the ones who stand out are not inherently the best ones in the field,
Right.
but the ones who are the most passionate about helping human beings.
Right.
When someone's fiery and just really loves their craft, their clients are going to love them.
100%.
They're going to fix them because they want to genuinely help them. It's not
Yep.
about the money. It's
Right.
not about the trade. It's not about growing your name. It's literally, I want to make the world a better place, one
Exactly.
human or one sports team at a time, or one pre-army draft at a time.
Yep.
I remember what I wanted to say, and it also ties into exactly what you're saying.
Right.
I think a common mistake that I see in the strength training world, in the rehab world, is thinking that, all right, I'll do some bandit stuff and that's it, my shoulder aches are going to go away.
Right.
And I'm not even talking about there's so much more things like stability and core stability
Right.
that have to be done to address the shoulder pain.
Right.
I'm talking about is the laws of progressive overload apply to the rehab world as well.
Of course.
So yeah, but of course for
Okay,
you
yeah,
and
yeah,
me.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
people out there who are like, yeah, I went to my in Israel the concept is called kupat cholim, like your medical insurance, and they send you some physio who works with 80-year-olds, and they're
Right.
like, all right, your shoulders hurt, so do some external rotation,
Right.
and then a week later you're like, this is really easy, but
Oh,
this is
even
what
if you're an athlete
yeah.
and you work with 80-year-olds, most of them,
Doesn't-
I'm not going to say every single
Yeah.
one because I don't know every single physical therapist,
Yeah.
most of them seem to be getting the same cookie cutter
stuff.
list of this is shoulder, oh, this is rotator cuff, this is what we do.
But it's not just I agree with that. It's not
Right.
just the cookie cutter stuff. There's so many other things that have to be addressed, and
Oh, yeah.
the whole body. Whole body. What's her name?
100%.
Katie Bowman, whole body.
yeah, the whole body approach.
Whole
or-
body
yeah.
approach. You have to look at from the foot up all the way to the head, see
Yep.
what's going on. But, and the big but is that if you're doing your external rotation, then it gets easy. You have to make it harder.
Of course.
You can add a thicker band. You can add a more compound movement. But the eventual goal is to get back to whatever your regimen is in the first place.
Yep.
So if handstands or overhead pressing caused you pain, so you went to your physio and you went to your strength coach and they gave you some mobility and stability and corrective exercise to deal with it, the eventual goal, anywhere between a week to 4 weeks, depending on what happened. If it was a dislocated shoulder, it might take more time. Get back to whatever caused it in the
Oh, for
first
sure.
place. The overhead pressing, the
Oh,
handstand
you
thing,
have to
the cartwheeling.
Yeah.
And
I just posted that with the kid last week. I
Amazing.
posted him doing a high,
Yeah.
high velocity, high quick,
Yeah.
External rotation
Uh-huh.
with the band because that was the position
Correct.
that caused him to
caused-
dislocate.
Yeah.
You have to retrain the movement.
Uh-huh.
If you know what the movement is that
Yes.
caused the problem in the beginning, if it's an ankle sprain, you have to retrain that movement pattern
You have to retrain
so
the-
that you can control it next time.
You have to retrain the movement and get back to the original movement that caused it
Yes.
to get stronger. You
Yes.
do not get stuck in
Yep.
the corrective exercise world.
No.
I think that corrective exercises have a lot of place in warm-ups, in
Yes.
the rehab world, in
Yes.
cool downs, in your off days, your active
Yep.
recovery. You want to spend some time.
Yep.
You know the kin stretch guys, the cars guys,
Yes.
control articular rotation.
Yeah.
So these guys, moving
Yep.
their hip in like really, really great ways, and that's awesome. Is it something I'm going to do 24 hours a day? No, because if I need the football athlete to be strong so he can push the guy who weighs
Yep.
120 kilo,
Yep.
I should probably be spending more time strength training.
For me, that's a warm up, and I always
Right.
teach people. No, the things that you're doing right now in these first few weeks, they become your warm up.
Yeah.
This is not where you're staying. The goal is to start to build stability, build mobility, build a little bit of activation, then start building strength. And then we
Yes.
want to build strength. And that's,
Even the corrective exercises, when I say corrective, like all the warm-up stuff and whatever it may be, I do like progressing them. So I'll either do, even like with my athletes, I'll either add a thicker band, I'll do a more complex drill, I'll do some sort of thing that makes the exercise harder. When I get to my squat, I'm trying to lift more weight. I still want them to get stronger, and this kind of ties into off-season versus on-season. What if you took an athlete, and I see this a lot in Israel, where there's not so much, how are you doing?
oh, I'm fine. I'm
Chilling?
totally fine, yeah.
It's like a Mayan.
I'm
at
lucky.
3
It's kind of
degrees.
like a Mayan. I'm not. Yeah, 3 degrees. I'm at 3 degrees. I'm just
Anyways,
sucking it up.
Anyways.
It is cold, though. It is cold.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice. It's nice.
It's nice. It's refreshing.
really refreshing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so I see a lot of athletes in the Israeli strength and conditioning world where instead of spending their off season squatting heavy, deadlifting heavy, and building the basic elements of strength, stability, and mobility,
Right.
they're getting lost like standing on one leg in a bosu and a
Right.
pita all day, and it's like you just came into the season, did a bunch of like unilateral, single-legged stuff, which would be great in theory, but they have to go hand in hand with strength. What if you came into the season with a 100-kilo squat, a 100-kilo deadlift, and a 60-kilo bench press? You'd be probably much, and a stable.
I think they need both, though.
Like,
Does that make sense? I do
I'm
think
not
they need
disagreeing with you. I was
Yeah.
about to finish my sentence and say
Okay.
that what if they have a stable core,
Right.
a stable and mobile base
Right.
with strength, or just some balance work, and they come to season, they try to maintain whatever balance and stability they built, instead of coming to the season with a good, strong, mobile,
Right.
and stable base. And I see
Right.
this again and again getting stuck in the off season
Okay.
in just corrective exercises,
Right.
and then like
No, see,
it
I
doesn't
think
get
you need
anywhere.
both. You
I
know,
agree.
because I've sent you a couple of people that anybody who comes to you from me knows how to deadlift,
I agree.
knows how to control their scapula, knows how to push, pull, side plank. Like they know all
Yes.
of the basics of being able to build strength, and I fully believe that people have to start from the inside out, but
Totally
then you've
agree.
got to build strength around it. I do think for certain athletes, they do have to be able to do quick movements in a round fashion. I may
Yes.
need to be able to move around different joints.
Yes.
So as far as like 100, you would know better than me because I assume you're talking about football players, like 100,
all
100
athletes.
kilo deadlift. So again, you know, that might be a little bit where you and I differ.
Yeah,
I'm a
okay.
big believer in I only want to do what I can 100% control. I have zero desire to lift heavier than I can control because for me there's no purpose. Like maybe for you, maybe in certain sports
So I'll
there might be a
reflect
purpose.
on that in a moment.
Right,
Go
okay.
ahead.
So for me, there's no purpose. I really like, because I know if I can control it, I'm not going to get hurt doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't really control it, there's a small little chance that I might get hurt doing it. So that's where, you know, different people differ. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a CrossFit fan unless you 100%, I know. Unless you can 100% stabilize
Correct.
through every single movement,
Correct.
most people cannot. So if you can really stabilize,
Even in
and
the
you can
games,
slow it
yeah.
down enough to be able to stabilize through every movement, it might be
Yeah.
okay. But you have to be willing not to go insanely fast so that
Right.
you can work on your form.
Right.
So I'm not, you know, for me, I'm not a big believer you have to be able to lift double your body weight
Right.
or your body weight. Like I'm a big believer in just keep going progressively, heavier and heavier and heavier, but what you can control. That's my own thing. Because
So-
I'm too scared of getting hurt and pain,
Yeah.
and you know.
Yeah,
and I'm
so
52.
First of all, I don't think age is a changing
I'm
factor.
kidding.
We absolutely agree on our styles. We
Right.
might approach things differently, but the way I look at it is like this: the days of like lifting as much as possible on the bar come from the powerlifting world,
Right.
or maybe the weightlifting world, and
Yeah,
even
I
in
was gonna say
CrossFit,
Olympic lifting or
Olympic
something, yeah,
weightlifting,
yeah.
yes.
I'm not sure,
Even in
yeah.
the CrossFit world, that's encouraged. Now the problem with that is that they're not prioritizing performance.
Right.
They're not prioritizing longevity, and they're not prioritizing health. They're prioritizing me strong.
Right.
Me lift 300 kilo on bar, me win gold medal, go home. Athletic performance or tactical performance or any person,
Yep.
even non-athlete's goal is to be
Right.
strong, healthy, supple, you
Right.
like that word?
Yes.
Well-rounded,
Good word. Yeah.
good
yeah.
word, well-rounded, stable, and it doesn't really matter to me if this person lifts 100 kilo or lifts 20 kilo as
Exactly.
long as it's allowing them to function at their greatest. So for example, if they want to pick up their teenage 12-year-old kid and they're like, I can't do this because it hurts, I'm like, oh, maybe you have to get stronger and stable,
Yep.
obviously. But like, if he wants to do he or she wants to do things in his life, and I think that every parent should be able to pick up their kid. I don't mean their 20-year-old
Yep.
kid, but you should be able to swing on the monkey bars with
Yep.
your kids, to
Yep.
run around the park with them, to carry them, to push them up the hill. And
Yep.
if you're struggling with that, and surprisingly, a lot of people do.
Yep.
I know so many people who can't even carry their groceries home from Friday shopping for Shabbat, and if they can do that,
I'm laughing because I have a friend. We'll see if
Yeah.
she watches the podcast.
Yeah.
She'll know who it is. Who she came to me because she was having an issue with her foot.
Yeah.
And like a few days later, she said to me, she's like, you know, is there something else I could do because it's hard? Like I didn't know what she
It's
meant.
hard to
like
get strong,
the
yeah.
exercises are hard. No. She meant it was hard to get up and down off the floor. That was what she meant. So I was like, no, you get down on that floor.
yeah.
Like,
Sometimes
That was what was
strength
funny.
training is hard. But anyways, back
Yeah.
to what I was saying. People do have to get stronger,
Mm-hmm.
but both athletes and NARPs, non-athletic regular people, that's a term I use a lot,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
have to utilize the principles once again of progressive overload. So what I look at it is that 50 kilo squat with perfect form, and once again, I think that most people could achieve that. It's
for
not
sure.
far-fetched.
Yeah.
Is superior. A 50
Right.
kilo squat with a perfect bracing and stability
Yep.
and depth
Yep.
and chest up in perfect form
Yep.
is superior to an 120 kilo squat
100%
in every way possible.
Quality over
even
quantity.
if
Yep.
even if the 120 kilo squat is decent.
Yep.
Whatever. Yeah, I just had a little bit of a knee cave as I went
Yeah.
down. No, your 50 kilo
100%.
squat will carry over to your performance better if it's flawless at 100%, far more than a 120
Yep.
kilo squat. That's like kind of whatever.
Yep.
With that being said, so I think we do agree. With
Oh, we
that being
totally
said,
agree.
because
Right.
I work with contact sports a lot, we're
Right.
talking tackle, football, and rugby.
And if you're talking about a 300-pound or a 250-pound football player,
Yeah.
of course he could do 100 kilos.
yeah,
you
but
know
it's
what
not.
I mean?
It's
Like,
not just about the 100 kilo. One
Right.
moment, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Both tackle contact sports, they
Right.
require heavier. They require people to be very, very strong. Whereas Soccer players, basketball players, flag football players, if they can squat 100 kilo with perfect form, hell yeah.
Right.
If they can squat 150 kilo with perfect form, hell yeah. Specifically contact sports,
Right.
you need them to not just be mobile, stable, resilient, pretty strong. You need them to be freakishly strong because they're pushing against guys who weigh 150 kilo.
Right. And
So
there's that
for
velocity.
and
It's
they have to
physics.
tackle
Physics.
exactly. They have to tackle people and they have to ruck people and clean up people and do who knows what to people.
Right.
So those sports specifically, there's a very, very, very big emphasis on how much can I lift.
Right.
Not because it's coming from the powerlifting world, because it's coming from I need to power clean 100 kilo at least to be a good linebacker.
Right.
So that's where like it gets
Makes sense.
confusing.
And I'm not an expert in that.
Correct.
I'm not.
That's what I
I'm not.
specialize in.
100%. I'm not an expert in
But
that.
and here's the but, and I wrote a post about this the other day.
Right.
Even soccer players.
Did I like it? I try to like
did.
them all. Okay.
And flag football players and
Right.
basketball players need to have a very good, solid base of strength
Yep.
and stability and mobility.
Yep.
When I say strength,
Yep.
it's all compassive,
Yep.
which means that if I work with these flag football teams now for their tournament,
Right.
if they're all
I'll
squatting
be working
heavy,
with my daughter in January.
hell yeah. I'm looking forward. If they're all squatting with good form heavy weights and
Right.
we're able to convert that strength into power and performance in the field,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. If they can't squat a heavy weight without good form, we have to discover what's preventing them from squatting heavy weight with good
Exactly.
form, but they don't need to power lift.
Makes
Any
sense. No, everything
additions?
you're saying makes perfect sense.
It's
Everything.
science.
Yeah, everything you're
It's
saying makes perfect sense.
Amazing. Now, let's lay out an outline for
Okay.
an athlete or an ARP,
Okay.
non-athletic regular person who
Right.
wants to get into shape, an optimal shape for his goal, for his sport, or his or her sport, or wants to be able to carry their kid over their heads. How do we address it? So you give a very, very big emphasis on stability.
I give a very big emphasis
So-
on stability first, but it's going to be according
Correct.
to
So
the
let's
person.
lay it out for them. Like,
Right.
how do we lay out mobility, stability, speed, a little bit of power, strength? It can be very overwhelming. So let's day one, they go into your thing. They never worked out in their life.
Okay, so I mean, listen, for me, I'm going to explain to them the way the stabilizing system works, in terms of
Which means
the diaphragm. So
how
the
to breathe.
stabilizing, the stabilizing system is made up of your diaphragm, your pelvic floor, the deepest layer of the stomach, the deepest layer of the back. They act kind of like a balloon. First and foremost, if my head and neck are not aligned above in this position, my diaphragm will not sit on top of my, no, that comes into, you'll see lots of that on my Instagram. If your diaphragm does not sit on my pelvic floor, I cannot create stability. I can't create intrinsic abdominal
It's
pressure.
your favorite word.
And it is. And so if my head and neck aren't first lined up, well, think of what kids do and people do. Everybody does this all day long. So everybody knows they get yelled at in my facility because the minute I see them, I pull their phone back up here.
Right.
But if I don't start reminding myself, the 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour a day of exercise I do is never going to take away from the 23 hours of everything else doing everything wrong. So you have to put it into
I
context.
want to speak so much about that topic, but
We'll go on. Yeah. So I explained to them the way this system works, and there are videos on my Instagram. You can go watch them. We won't get too much into it. And then I'm also evaluating them, and I'm seeing, are there areas? Are their hips out of alignment? Does one leg rotate more than the other? And then I'm going to try to address that, often using this neurokinetic therapy, muscle testing, to try to figure out, what's working, what's not working. I'll give them something corrective based on that. A couple of weeks of that should get them pretty central, and then we can just stabilize it there. Now, the same thing will go if somebody, for example, can't touch their toes.
Right.
More often than not, I've got to look at, is it a mobility problem or is it a stability problem? Well, one of the easiest ways to tell is have them lie down, have them do a leg lift up to the ceiling, and if they can get to close to 80 degrees or something like that, somewhere between 70 to 90 degrees, keeping the other leg down. And then I passively try it, and I get a lot further. If I'm getting a lot further passively, it's gonna be a stability problem.
Can I address some points
Sure.
before you continue, so I
Yeah.
just remember what I want to say? So first off, I love where physios come in that stage, and that's where I, as a strength coach, who's very, very, what's the
Knowledgeable.
word? Thank you.
Right.
Knowledgeable, but like all compassive. Like I don't
Right.
just look, let me get strong. I want
Right.
to be mobile and stable, and I
Right.
do breath work and meditation. Like even
Right.
I touch on emotional
Right.
training as well. Is that most trainers don't assess the deep. Can they externally rotate their hip?
Right.
They squat with them and be like, all right, you can squat all right, everything's fine.
All right.
Some trainers like me, the first time a client walks in, I do a mobility assessment and a
Right.
stability assessment, and I teach them how to dead bug. But as you said, there's the finer nuances
Right.
that a good physio will touch upon
Right.
that usually trainers won't.
Right.
So that's where I would, an athlete, I'd have them first work with a physio or that tactical
Right.
program we're working on, have them work with a physio for a week, a few
Right.
weeks, a month,
They don't
whatever's
need that
needed,
long.
and then move on working hand in hand with the
Right.
physio to a well-rounded strength training regimen.
Exactly.
Back onto you.
Yeah, exactly. So, After that, I mean, whatever their problem is, I don't care if you broke your big toe, I don't care if it's shoulder surgery, you're going to learn how to breathe with me, and that's going to be part of your homework. So you're going to learn how to turn that breath work into maintaining intra-abdominal pressure and how that comes in. There's going to be some piece of that, and really with every person, it depends on the person. Some people, especially if they're young like you, get it in like 1 second. Other people, I've had people where it's taken 3 visits just working on breathing. Does it mean I only work on breathing? Absolutely not, because I've got to address the problem that they came in for. So meaning I'll go, depending. If it's an upper body problem, I may go more towards upper body and looking at scapular stabilization first. If it's a knee problem, I may go towards what's happening at the hip and at the ankle and the foot.
Upstream, downstream.
I will always get to the whole body within, if let's just say it's someone around you, someone young, someone young, or someone who just knows their body really well, somebody my age, but they're athletic. Between 6 and 8 visits, and I only treat once a week, I usually have them deadlifting, doing everything they need to do.
Amazing.
Most of the time, because I'm getting exactly how you called it, upstream, downstream. I'm incorporating foot things, I'm incorporating scapular stability. I want them to have the ability to maintain good body mechanics in any exercise that they do, and use that to make sure that they hopefully don't need to come back to me again. And if they do, it's a couple visits. It's not, we're not starting from the beginning. So
I've seen that. First of all, you mentioned that when you were giving the hamstring example, that it may be stability or mobility. If I may, it also sometimes is technique. Sometimes they just don't understand what you want from them.
Right.
I found this mostly with the hinge, which can be a relatively complex move for a beginner. In fact, we're working with younger teenagers, girls or guys, single leg deadlift. They just don't understand it because like, what, my body has to do this and this and this and this. It's a lot of things. Now that exercise specifically, if someone understands how to stabilize correctly and how to hinge correctly and how to breathe correctly, it will just click into place.
Exactly.
But sometimes with the hinge, like I've seen athletes who have such a severe hamstring mobility limitation that they just can't hinge. Like their hinge is like a quarter hinge, and that's okay, and that's what I'll work with. And I'll work on restoring their mobility, but still getting stronger within their current capacity of mobility. Whereas other people, they just don't understand what shooting their hip back is for a hinge because they've never done that.
So I have a million different ways of trying to get someone to do it, but because they're normally coming to me for physio first, I'm getting to a hinge much later on than you are, because you might get to it day 1 or day 2, or because that's what you want to do
hinge is
right
like day
away.
1, day 2 after the initial mobility assessment, but a hinge is one of the mobility assessments.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. So meaning for me, I'm getting to a hinge. I don't care who you are, we're getting to a hinge. I just don't know when I'm going to get to it. It really depends on you, and it depends on what your problem is, and it depends on, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of different factors, but I'm getting there. I'm just not getting there.
I think that a hinge is like the bread and butter of an athlete.
100%.
Like if they can hinge well,
anyone.
Yes, correct. I'm just automatically delved to the athletic world, but it's the position that you're spending your life in. Like athletes, there's no question. I explain to my athletes on the field as I train them when we're doing split stance deadlifts and single leg deadlifts and jumps. Guys, this is the position you're in. Even in a split stance, in like a receiver stance, that's a hinge, just a split hinge. And you're bursting out of it. And the second everyone understands it,
it's like a light bulb clicks.
And when you pick up something from the floor, I'm in a hinge. And when I hold my kid and pick him up, I'm in a hinge. And it's just this bread and butter for anyone. And eventually when you want to transition to power movements and you start incorporating more triple extension, which is hip, knee, and ankle, the hinge is the precursor to that. If you can't hinge well, you're not going to be able to jump well. So we laid it out. So stability is first. Specifically, intra-abdominal pressure. Make sure they understand how to activate their hip correctly. Mobility and stability are the first 2 cornerstones. And then what would be the next stage?
And then from there, we're going to start to build strength. You know what I mean? I'm going to make sure that they can be stable around every aspect of their body. And from there, we're going to start to build strength. So everybody who leaves me is deadlifting. Everybody who leaves me, they may not be doing a push-up yet because I'm insane about scapular control, but they'll be doing planks, they'll be doing side planks, they'll be doing some kind of squat, they'll be doing some kind of lunge, they'll be doing some kind of pulling movement. I get everyone on the bars. Don't care if you're... I've got 75-year-olds up on the bar. 76, 77-year-olds up on the bar.
If a 75-year-old can do a pull-up or even just hang and control his body weight, that says a lot about their motor control. It says, I can control my body. When I'm squatting, I'm on the floor. So I'm kind of like assisted by gravity because I'm not, my weight of whatever, 77 kilo is not really working by itself because I'm on the floor. When you're hanging, you're controlling your entire 100%. Weight of your body.
And it's a great way to gain scapular control together with intra-abdominal pressure. And, I call it like the core hang hold is like what I call it. Just the holding there, making sure the intra-abdominal pressure is maintained, making sure they're using their lats and their serratus. I love it. It's
I
so
made
much
a
fun.
post a while ago about like my 2 favorite exercises, and not even
Right.
exercise, like movements,
I
squatting,
think I remember it.
squatting and hanging.
And hanging. I
Squatting and
remember it.
hanging.
Yeah,
and
it was
someone
good.
told me, Ido
Right.
Portal, who developed the movement method,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I'm familiar with because of all the people I know that
Yeah.
like it. And I never knew that. And they're like,
Right.
you were like mechaven to him. You were
Right.
like you're like this guy.
Right.
Like, no, it makes sense to me. If you can hang
100%.
and you can squat, you're probably
Yeah. And
pretty
you're
well
getting
rounded.
great upper body. You're getting intra-abdominal pressure. You know, you're getting core control. You're getting it with a squat, and you're getting lower body with a
Right.
squat. So
Right. Okay. So we got stability, we got mobility, we got strength. What's next?
well, by then
Dun,
either
dun,
they're
dun,
training
dun.
with a trainer or they're going to you. Does that make
I
sense?
appreciate
Athletic
that.
performance
But let's
and
speak
sports
about.
performance.
So I'll address it.
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
Good.
sure. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I look at it. We built the mobility, stability, and strength. I like saying strength is the base of everything, simply because when I teach a squat, I don't teach just squat it. I teach. Here's how to stabilize during the squat,
Right.
and here's how to get enough range of motion for the squat, and
Right.
that already kind of checks up the stability and mobility.
Right.
But strength is the base of everything athletic and everything narpetic. We just made that word up. Narpetic,
okay.
not athletic.
Oh,
regular
I see.
person.
Yeah,
so
I
you
got
did
it.
there. So like,
Cute.
we built the strength, and then power training, jumping,
Yep.
throwing. Help me out here.
Sports performance.
Lifting weights heavy, moving
yeah.
anything fast, which
Yeah.
happens in every sport.
Right.
Sprinting.
Which you don't want to do until you have good
a
control
good,
of slow.
correct,
Exactly.
and a
then
good
you want
base
to
of strength.
Exactly.
And the flaw is if you move too fast to these like rotational throws and sprints, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with sprinting because you
Right.
always want to like test your max capacity,
Yeah.
especially as an athlete, and you're always gonna have to sprint
Right.
to the bus or
Right.
sprint to pull your dog
Yeah.
out of the street. You know,
Yep.
God forbid if a car's coming. The
I
stronger,
was thinking kid, but okay.
yeah,
no,
I have a
just
dog.
kidding. I know,
The
I'm teaching
stronger I am,
Right.
the faster, the
Your
more
potential, I think.
potential.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say. The
Yeah,
faster
yeah.
potential doesn't
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
The more potential I have to be faster and more explosive.
Right.
So look at it like this: if someone squats 100 kilo in a stable, controlled manner,
Right.
eventually he or she is gonna take that 100 kilo and squat it faster,
Right.
not exploding out of it, but faster, and then
Right.
eventually they can jump with it. They're not gonna
Right.
jump with 100 kilo; they're gonna jump with 30 kilo.
Right.
And by doing that, they're taking the strength that they built and converting it in correct me if I'm wrong, the neurons in their brain now understand how to tap into their strength capacity and convert it into quick movement.
And
If
I think what you're getting with that also is you're getting a lot of deceleration,
Correct.
eccentric load, and things like
Correct.
that. And that's often where people get injured is during eccentric
loading.
control.
If
People
I
have
only
great
squat
eccentric
slowly,
control.
if I only squat 5 seconds down and hold
Right.
for 5 seconds and go up slowly,
Right.
which is great for the base, building
Right.
eccentric strength and building the
Right.
stability and mobility in the beginning, I'm not going to be powerful. Eventually, once I build the strength loading and the eccentric strength,
Mhm.
I go quickly through it. That's where it carries over to most of the field
Right.
and to running to get your kid out of the street and running for the bus.
Right.
After that strength is built, we can build the power on top of it.
Right.
And usually at that point, the physio will already have sent it to the strength and conditioning
Oh, yeah.
coach. Many physios are also strength and
Right.
conditioning coaches, the same way that many strength coaches have a lot of physio knowledge. Like people come to me for sprained ankles all the time. One
Right.
session, boom, they send
Right.
their homework. They're done.
Right.
And they never have pain again. Because I tell them,
I think it
take
takes
their
more than.
shoes.
Okay, I
yeah,
still think
no,
it takes
no.
more than
So
one.
I do a
It's more
session or
than
two and I
this.
give them tons of homework.
Yeah.
That's progressive over time.
Yeah.
I also tell them to take their shoes off,
For sure.
which
Yeah,
helps.
yeah,
We'll get
yeah.
to that momentarily.
Yeah.
After power,
Right.
then we can start getting into like sport specific. So like change of direction and agility. Remember, change of direction is a drill where I'm changing direction without reaction. Agility is where I'm changing direction with reaction. Sport specific movements. All of these are layered on top of that base of strength, power, mobility, and then agility and speed training. All laid upon that. If I'm not
Right.
strong, stop doing the gimmicky exercise you see on Instagram. If I'm not stable, stop doing the gimmicky exercise you see on
100%.
Instagram.
And most people
build-
do them wrong.
and
That's
build
why
that
I don't
base,
do. That's
and
why I
build that
personally don't.
base.
Yeah, but that's also why I personally don't really put
Right.
exercises up or explain them because I find that most
true.
people are going to do them wrong.
I've seen.
and I'm insane over nowhere in my
Yeah,
life except
I
for
got you.
movement and
I'm
control. of movement.
pretty technical as well.
Right.
Something I've noticed that people who are on my online programs,
Right.
like through the app I use, people who find the most success with it are people who have trained with me, either on
Oh,
the
I believe
field
it
or in the gym.
person.
The second I give them a program
Yeah.
of some dude in America, I mean, I'm in touch with them. So my back's hurting when I squat. Have you been doing the dead bug exercise with the 5-minute explanation?
Right.
No, I've been skipping it. It's part of the warm up. That's why your back's hurting.
exactly.
So like the people who benefit the most from these online generic videos, not that they're
Right.
generic because they come with explanations, are people who understand how
Understand
to
their
control their
body.
body. And the second
Well,
you control your body, you can do anything.
I think also that when people are looking at you versus looking at what a physical therapist is putting up, they're people who are already, they're football players, they're training, you're giving them really good information. A lot of them might be athletic trainers, might be coaches, might be other things,
Right.
and you're giving them a lot of ideas.
Right.
And now I guess as a physio, I could be getting giving ideas maybe to other physios.
Of course.
But that's just not even who. Not that I have that many followers, but it's not
You
that. It's not. It's not who my huge base of following is. It's not a million other physical therapists, and even any of them who follow me, I've learned a lot from them, and some of them are, you know.
You'd also be pretty surprised. Like, I follow some really good physios, and sometimes they'll put up like here's stories of like working with their clients, and I usually understand why because that's where my brain is. But if they were to put up a video, hey guys, here's a good way to deal with ankle sprains, like any guy could understand that. Any guy or girl can. It depends how they word it.
Right.
I kind of want to delve into barefoot performance.
Sure.
But before we do so, any other last notes on kind of what we laid out? Remember, guys and gals listening, it's based off mobility and stability, strength, power, agility, sport-specific training. That's
so what I'm gonna say is that my only people that I'm really gonna get to that end goal of sport-specific training, agility, or people, let's say that someone had an ACL injury or something like that. Like, I'm not really interested in training people. I am interested in getting them to the point that I can give them to someone like you or someone else.
That is training. You mean like conventional
I'm not.
training.
No. I'm not interested in them staying with me forever.
Right,
I have a few
same.
people who I train.
Yes.
But most of the people are coming to me for physical therapy, and I need my hours to be open to be able to help new people. So I try now. I mean, I have a few people that I've been working with for years, and you know, I still work with them. But I try at this point to pass them off to a trainer afterwards, to pass them back to someone like you, because I need to. I'm not looking to have that consistent all the time. I'm looking to have my schedule open enough to be able to help new people, I guess, and things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think we addressed all of it.
Cool.
Let's talk about our next favorite subject.
So anyways, something I wanted to say when you were saying I don't put up gimmicky exercises because like people are gonna execute them wrong.
I don't think I said gimmicky, but
not gimmicky. Sorry,
just
no, but you don't want to put up like advanced movements because people are gonna do them wrong. So I speak a lot to Andy Bryant, who's a barefoot podiatrist, and something we're speaking about is a lot of times I'll share things that I put up. Where it's like, here's some calf exercise, some shin exercises, and he made a very good point. He says most people don't even know how to walk correctly. In fact, most people don't even know how to do the tripod foot correctly and really stabilize.
Exactly.
What's the point of doing a calf raise if I can't even step on the floor? So his like shita, his methodology is like the simplest, most basic things like, look, here's how to move your big toe, right? As opposed to like a calf raise, which is basically moving your big toe and a million other ligaments and bones at once.
And where are they? Are they pressing through the big toe when they're doing it?
Is my knee rotating out? Is my knee rotating in? Is my hip going out? Is my hip going in? But me and him, similar to me and you, our target audience, while it may be very a carryover, like if we were that circle grid, there's a lot of people who fall in between. Who are we targeting? People who follow me. I mean, many people who follow me are athletes. They're not inherently like elite athletes, but some of them are in the performance world and they want this advanced stuff. And
I agree.
And people who utilize both his knowledge and my knowledge, or your knowledge and my knowledge, are able to maximize it. So that's what I was gonna say about exercise. And because he's a barefoot podiatrist, Dara has in her bio barefoot therapist, barefoot physio, and I have in my bio
barefoot trainer.
barefoot
trainer. Okay, fine.
Athlete. It's the same thing. Now, before we go down like the hipster road, there's definitely many spiritual elements of being barefoot, and you know, there's other reasons why we do it. But before you ask me again why I'm not wearing shoes in the shook, it's gross, right?
Oh my God, you go to the shook with that shit. Okay,
the shook is like the local marketplace.
I don't know where my unshoes are, but
they're before you ask me like what's you and your barefoot fetishes, this has nothing to do with a barefoot fetish. Along the way of my journey, it did become like a spiritual and holistic thing. It has everything to do with performance. Everything. And the mic is yours.
Oh, okay, fine. What
you
would
have
you like
2
me to
minutes.
say? Oh, what would you like me to say?
Just why?
Okay, listen, it makes perfect sense. The bone is made
let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it for you without getting technical. A client of mine came to me who was also a client of yours.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do.
He said to me, I got him the barefoot shoes, by the way.
Did you really?
Because he's lifting in sneakers.
Oh, God. Okay,
he sends me videos in squatting sneakers. I said, either be barefoot or get ready. He said, my gym doesn't let me. I said, here's the barefoot shoes.
Exactly.
Go buy them.
That's why I first, by the way, got into barefoot shoes like 12 years ago because the gym wouldn't let me be barefoot.
Yeah, good. Nice.
So
when only the toe shoes existed.
Now, exactly. Back when it was only Vibram.
There's like a gajillion brands now. Point is,
thank goodness.
Don't get technical.
I needed to get on Instagram to find that. Now I've.
Don't get technical. No bones, no ligaments.
Okay. Oh, no. That's what I was going to say.
Let me tell you his question. He said to me, can you send me studies that prove to me that barefoot training is the way to go? So I said, no problem. Let's divide it into two categories. Number one, barefoot training in the gym. I explained that to you already. In order to, look at your squat video. Look at your sneakers. In order to stabilize correctly in squatting, deadlifting, lunges, you must take your shoes off. So in lunges, you can get big toe extension, in squats and deadlift stability. Makes sense to you? No science needed? Great. Then he's like, what about like barefoot walking and barefoot running and barefoot hiking and just being the shoes off? And I said, Science may or may not prove that.
Right.
Common sense proves that.
Right.
So I want you to like
Okay, so
answer
here's
this
what
question.
I'm gonna say. Okay, so
Yes.
here's what I'm gonna say. First of all, barefoot makes perfect sense. We were saying it makes perfect sense because there are 26 bones and multitude of ligaments and 33 joints in the foot and ankle. That means any place there's a joint in the body, that area is meant for movement. So you
Yeah.
take something tiny like the foot. If there's 33 joints in the foot and ankle, that thing is meant to move. And if you stick it in a shoe, you cannot adapt to surfaces, you cannot move. So that it makes perfect sense. Now, as far as running, let's say in Vibrams or
Right.
running fully barefoot, I fully support anybody who's done the work to do it. I will say that for myself, I'm perfectly happy in my ultras. I have
Right.
the fittest ultras because I need some cushioning.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
many people may need some cushioning. So if
Agreed.
you're someone young like Sean who got into this
I
really,
disagree
really
with
young,
that.
okay,
It's
fine.
not about young, it's
no,
about
no,
work.
no, 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 no. It's
about
not just
work.
work. It's not just work because you have to understand that certain people have certain conditions. You have hallux rigidus.
Okay.
There are certain conditions where somebody can have, and those are usually built over time. A foot that's going to be,
Are you
you know,
saying
stuff-
young because I only messed up
because
my
you
foot
haven't
for
messed
20
up.
years
Exactly,
instead of 50 years? Okay.
exactly. So you might be able to. My brother, who's 40 years old, he runs in Vibrams and things like that, and he's fine
Right.
with it. For me, I like a little bit of cushioning, and the
Right.
way I kind of came to that was. Thought about it and I said, when Hashem created the world,
I mean, God.
He created, or
For those who
God,
don't know
I'm
who
sorry
Hashem
for those
is.
who
Or
don't know
your higher
Hashem is.
power,
Yeah, your
or
higher
Allah.
power. When someone created the world, it was made of shetach. It was made of trees and leaves and
Trails
bark
and
and
earth,
trails
right.
and earth. So it was made for your foot to adapt
was
to.
malleable.
It wasn't concrete. So there are many barefoot people who would say it doesn't make a difference and your foot will learn to adapt. And that might be true, and that may be true for many. For me, when it comes to running, I'm perfectly happy in my ultras, but the rest of the time, you can see what I'm wearing over there. They're thin soled unshoes,
Cool.
you
So
know.
I wanna.
And I think that people have to work their way into the
Agreed.
less
It's
and less
hard
padding.
work. It's hard
It
work.
is. You've really
It's
got
hard
to,
work.
you know.
Like, I'm at the point where I can walk anywhere barefoot, any texture. I can walk
Right.
on glass, not like
Wow.
thorn nails, but I'm
Right.
saying like I can walk on small pieces of glass and my calluses are so thick that it
Oh,
doesn't really
wow,
penetrate my
that's
skin.
amazing.
I can walk on heat, I can walk on thorns. Like, it doesn't bother me as much because I've built up not just the
Resistance.
calluses, but like
Tolerance.
the tolerance.
Yeah,
Like, my
for
body's used to terrain. I can hike barefoot, but I'm significantly slower, which
Right.
makes sense because
Right,
your body's
it
like kind of
does.
feeling the ground. Running, I ran barefoot. I was considering running the Jerusalem Marathon 5K
Are you
or
kidding
10K
me?
barefoot
Oh
with
my
the whole
God.
crew. I'm
Yeah.
still not sold in it, and I might have
Okay.
been too late to get into that.
Right.
But I work really freakishly hard, and I don't just mean walking barefoot. I walk barefoot. I don't wear shoes. I train barefoot. I
But you do
toe
foot
spray.
exercises, you do
I
hip
do
exercises,
everything
you do other things
that
you
has
need
to be done, including heavy strength training.
Right.
Surprise!
Right.
Tripod foot squatting.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's the best thing for barefoot because you're pushing your big toe out and teaching
Yep.
yourself how to stabilize with 100 kilo.
Yep.
If I can squat 100 kilo barefoot with good form, I
Right.
can walk barefoot. You know what I
Right.
mean? Whoa, we're passionate about this.
Yes.
Anyways, but I want to delve into what you said, and I want like a little more clarity. So first of all, I agree with you about sole thickness. I think that when it comes to minimalist shoes, sole thickness is the least important.
Right.
Why? Because when it comes to the toe box or the elevated heel or the arch
Yep.
support, those are things that are bad. I
Yep.
want to eliminate those.
Exactly.
Sole thickness is not bad. It's neutral.
Right.
The thicker the sole, the less ground feel I'll have.
Right, and the
thinner
less
sole,
feedback you're getting
correct.
from the
The
ground.
thinner the
so-
sole, the more ground feel I'll have.
Right.
But it's not harming me by having a thicker sole. I'm just not getting the maximal benefits, which is where the concept of transition shoes come in. As an ultra,
Yep.
Lemsy,
Yep.
shoes that have a little more thickness, and anyone who's starting off barefoot, I don't look at short term movement run in Vibrams, I look
Right.
at long term, and I say, get ultras, get Lems,
Right.
year or two, build it
Yep.
up, you have your whole life to get strong, especially if we spent 30, 40 years in bad shoes.
Right.
But because I've ground the sand on this topic so many times on so many podcasts,
I don't think we need to go there.
I don't want to
Right.
delve into shoes. I don't want to delve into bone. I want to delve into performance. Like I want to answer his question:
Right.
why is barefoot the optimal way for people for performance reasons, for athletes, for NARPs, for regular people? Why should they even consider? I'm not talking about running. I'm not talking about hiking. I'm talking about
guess, and what-
generalized barefoot walking. Why?
I guess because if again I'm going to take it back to when the world was created. That's how we were created. We were barefoot. You know, it's how we were created. It's how we were
our
meant
body is
to.
meant
Our body is built. That's what we're built
to be
for.
barefoot. We're not
We are
meant to be
built-
wearing a thick cushion.
100%. You know, and even when we walked 40 years in the desert to get here,
Sandals.
what were we in? Thin,
We were wearing
soled,
earth
unshoes.
runners.
Exactly, earth runners, unshoes. We were wearing, you
Yeah,
know,
it's true.
every other million brands. Balenka, you know.
Balenka. Oh, I just got
I love
Balenka.
them.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, did you?
I
have that
got the
pair for you to
slippers.
try.
Oh, Balenka slippers?
Oh, no, unshoes. Actually,
Unshoes,
those
yeah,
are,
okay.
yeah. Anyways.
I want to address
That's
one
another
thing
one.
and then we'll just summarize.
Right.
Specifically,
I'm
what
getting
you
the
said.
Balenka ones that look like Blundstone. I'm so
Nice.
excited. They
Chelsea,
should be coming
whatever
next
they're
week.
called?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Chelsea boots.
Ah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know my Barefoot shoes.
Yeah.
I hang out, I rub tushies with all these, influencers. Anyways, you said that the world was created like earth and malleable and leaves
Yeah.
and our bodies are meant to do it. And then like
Right.
man-made stuff came around like concrete and asphalt and people start running and walking and get injured. So I had this conversation with Andy.
Right.
And it's actually how we met. And since then
Right.
we're best buddies. And I said, I was walking on concrete or running, I don't
Right.
remember. And I posted on my story, if our feet are God made or higher
Right.
power made, and asphalt is man made, so how does it like make sense that we should be able to
Right.
walk on it? So he said something very interesting.
Right.
He said that the human body is a work of art.
Right.
And as you get strong, adaptable, exactly.
Yeah.
So the human body
Right.
can adapt to run and
I
walk
believe
on
that.
terrain as well, but it's a little bit of harder work. And the argument is not man-made versus God-made; it's a harder surface
Right.
versus a softer surface.
And we do know that on a very, very hard surface, there's not shock absorption. Like
Correct.
that's physics
Correct.
or I don't know, biomechan or whatever
Correct.
it is.
I've noticed
versus,
when
you know-
hiking, when I do my like long distance hiking barefoot, that when a lot of it's on concrete, and I'm fine. I walk on
Right.
it. We're talking 10, 20,
Right.
30 kilometers. My calves and feet feel it very, very sore the next day
Oh, interesting.
from walking because they worked so much harder against the concrete.
It's because
smashing
there's
it.
no foot. There's less foot
Yes,
intrinsic.
whereas
I
if
would
I do it
say.
on earth
Yeah.
or trail,
makes sense.
even trail, I'm fine
Right.
the next day, which is
Right.
interesting. It means my body's working harder,
Right.
and my calves are very strong, and my hips
Yeah.
are very strong, and my
Right.
glute and hamstring and the knee and the quad are able to
Right.
take the load. For
Right.
someone who's new to the world, they're walking barefoot on asphalt. Of course, they're going to get injured.
Right. No, it makes perfect
So
sense.
just to sum it up, so like if you're out there transitioning to the barefoot world,
Come on.
please,
Charlie
I
with
know,
his
yeah.
frisbee.
please, hey Charles, hey, please start slow.
Right.
Remember, you
Yeah.
spent your whole life in smushed shoes.
Yep.
That's 20,
Crushing
30,
your
40
toes.
years. It's probably better to spend a year or two, like even that barefoot transition graph. A lot of people are like, well, a year is so long. I'm like, you just spent 20 years in shoes. Why
Right.
would you not spend
Right.
longer? It's been a journey. I've been on the journey for 3-4 years, and I
Right.
used to wear Vibrams back in the day, 6-7 years ago. It was, when
Right.
it was the only shoe around, and like,
Exactly.
I'm still like, I still can't run like a marathon
Yeah.
barefoot yet. So
Yeah.
like, one day at a time. Any last wisdom
Yeah,
on
no,
this?
I will tell you something, interesting. Again, I have somebody who I've worked with for a while, and she was finally ready to address. She's had some long-standing issues. She's had hip surgery, some other things, and it was amazing because I got her not just barefoot, because everybody's barefoot in my place. Like,
Hell
that's,
yeah.
That's
I was
everything's
the
done barefoot.
first person to ever walk her into the facility, and she didn't say to remove her shoes because
'Cause
I
he
didn't have
any on.
shoes.
Exactly. I've had maybe 3 or 4 people over the years who came in barefoot shoes, but that's it. But she's always been barefoot, but I actually got her finally to agree to buy some Correctos.
Nice.
And the
Toe
difference
spreaders
she
for the
could
win.
feel in
Hell yeah.
walking, she's like, wow, yeah, I feel I have a wider base of support. I'm like, yes!
Surprise.
So, yeah.
You just think of it like a handstand, right? So when I teach handstands, like you teach the finger splay.
Right.
That's your feet should be.
Exactly.
They should be able to display as much as possible.
Exactly.
And I specifically about toe spreaders. I'll just touch on that for a second. I have Correctos. I have the silicone ones.
Right.
I'm at a point where I no longer really
Don't
need
need them.
them
I don't need them
because
either.
I'm able to create stability with my big toe. I will wear them. I've never gone back and worn harmful shoes for over 3-4 years already.
Right.
In fact, I own 26 pairs
I'm
of
like,
barefoot
he's got
shoes.
way more than me,
So-
but that's because it was only 2 years ago maybe that I started
So I
only
have
buying.
no need to like really harm my foot. But if I were to like go snowboarding or like wear dress
Right.
shoes, even though I have plenty of barefoot dress shoes,
Right.
then I would take or cleats. I would take my shoe
My
off.
biking shoes. Let's just say I can't wear
Exactly.
my biking shoes anymore. I've got to go buy some.
I would take my shoes off. I would splay my
Yeah.
toes, and that's where I find they come in more. Or if like my feet are particularly hurting from practice, while I'm like watching a movie, I'll just like get some passive splay. Not that passive splay is
Right.
enough. People
Right.
get confused. Passive splay is like holding a stretch and hoping that it will get better.
Right. It will only if you strengthen the pattern. will it get
Nice.
better.
Yeah. All right. So let's finish off today, Dara. It's
Yes.
been a pleasure. I'm happy this
I
happened.
thought we were gonna get to talk about our next favorite topic, Sean.
What's our next favorite topic? Can you tell us? Can you tell us about where we can find you on social media
Yeah.
and your clinic and go for
Yeah,
it.
so my clinic is called Musach Haguf in English.
Which
that
means
the body garage or the body mechanic,
that.
the body
I like
shop,
that.
something like that. I'm located in the Cinema City Mall in Jerusalem. And
It's like 10 minutes down
it's
the road from
literally, yeah, it's really close. We're really close to each other. And my Instagram is at Musach Haguf, MUSACHHAGUF. Musach Haguf on Facebook, also spelled that way, although I don't really update Facebook that much. I use Facebook for other things. What do I use Facebook for, Sean?
She uses it to
Fight
voice her
it.
opinions
Yes,
on the world.
yeah.
All right, so thank you so much for having me on
Thank
the show.
you.
It's a really privilege. I believe that you are the second oldest guest on this show.
Who was the oldest?
The
Who's older than
doctor,
me?
the Eastern doctor,
Who's
the
the doctor?
acupuncturist.
Who?
We'll catch you next time.
Oh, okay, fine.
So thank you so much for coming along. and
Thank
we'll
you
do
for
our little heart.
having
You know the heart
me.
thing? You know the
Oh,
heart
little
thing?
heart?
Peace out,
Yeah.
and that's it.